Azerbaijan's large-scale military drills and the level of combat readiness was praised. European Union says any change to the OSCE Minsk Group format requires agreement of all sides. CD album featuring Azerbaijani composer's song wins Grammy Award.
The large-scale exercise of the Azerbaijan armed forces have been completed. Following the drills, the level of combat readiness and professionalism of staff was highly appreciated. This was discussed at a meeting on the results of the exercises held under the supervision of Azerbaijan's Defense Minister, Colonel General Zakir Hasanov, with the participation of the senior personnel of the Defense Ministry and the armed forces commanders, chiefs and staffs and officers of military units. The Defense Minister analyzed the shootings carried out in conditions resembling the combat conditions to the maximum extent, praised the level of combat readiness and professionalism of the staff. The minister noted the importance of such exercises. Overall, the exercises involved 15,000 servicemen from the personnel, up to 300 armored vehicles, over 200 missile and artillery troops installations, approximately 20 aircraft of the air forces, as well as air defense missile formations equipped with modern air defense complexes. In accordance with the order of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, up to 5,000 reserve forces and about 300 motorized vehicles were involved in the exercises in order to examine the level of fulfillment of the mobilization tasks by the formations and units. The OSCE Minsk Group is co-chaired by France, the Russian Federation and the United States and is mandated to facilitate a political solution to the Karabakh conflict. The spokeswoman to European Commissioner Maya Kosyansik said. She said that any change to the established format of the OSCE Minsk Group would require the agreement of the sides involved. The EU, while not a member of the Minsk Group, is strongly committed to the settlement of the Karabakh conflict and fully supports the work of the Minsk Group, she told to other news agency. She was commenting on possible change to the Minsk Group format. Earlier, Deputy Chairman of the Committee on Political Affairs and Security of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, MP Azay Guliyev, said that he plans to raise the issue of increasing the number of co-chairmen of the OSCE Minsk Group from 3 to 5 at the OSCE PA winter session to be held in Vienna in February. Moreover, the EU calls on the sides of the Karabakh conflict to promote an environment conducive to progress in conflict settlement and to encourage and support related peace-building activities, the spokeswoman said. She underscored that the EU was also ready to provide reconstruction and rehabilitation support to the regions affected by the conflict once a peace deal is reached.
The National Museum of History of Azerbaijan has hosted a roundtable dedicated to the 110th anniversary of the genocide perpetrated by Armenians in Baku. The developments of February 6-10, 1905 went down in history as bloody extermination in Baku. In the following years, Armenian nationalists committed acts of genocide in other cities of Azerbaijan. Beginning in the second half of the 19th century, the Armenians embarked on their struggle to appropriate Azerbaijani territory, which was marred by terror attacks and mass killings of Azerbaijanis. Since the second half of the 19th century, Armenians were resettled to the territory of the South Caucasus, and they started a struggle against the local Muslim population. They were settled mainly in the territories which have indigenously belonged to Azerbaijanis, in the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, in Zangezur, Göçe Gölü. By the way, that's what it was called. It was the historical title of that lake, in the territory of the Yerevan Governorate, etc. In Baku, the bloody crimes of the Armenians assumed a broad scale as early as in the beginning of the 20th century. Armenian Dashnaks massacred hundreds of innocent people in the city on February 6-10, 1905. Since that moment, one may consider that the Armenian side, the Armenian political parties, and subsequently the Armenian state, systematically pursued a policy of mass annihilation against the Azerbaijani population, against Azerbaijanis. If mass extermination of the population or a part of the population is of planned and systematic nature. If these actions target annihilating genetically this part of the population, then these developments are called genocide. The bloody developments which emerged in Baku further spread to other parts of Azerbaijan, including Guba, Shamakhı, Nakhchivan, Yerevan, Zengezur, Ganja, Karabakh. In the aftermath of the massacres committed by Armenian Dashnaks, hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis have been killed over the past century.
Armenia is planning to mark the centennial of the so-called Armenian genocide. Despite the official invitation letters sent by Yerevan, many of the world's top rulers have been unwilling to visit Armenia on April 24th. An official reply to Yerevan's invitation from London has deeply disappointed Armenia. Prime Minister David Cameron will now join the officials to visit the so-called Genocide Museum in Yerevan. Cameron has rejected to land on the South Caucasus country on April 24th. Catherine Leach, UK ambassador to Armenia, said on February 6, Cameron's rejection to share sorrow of the falsified Armenian genocide has sparked a fury in the Armenian media. Armenian reporter, local media outlet, claimed that the UK premier decided not to sacrifice their relations with Azerbaijan and Turkey for the sake of Armenia. It also said that he will be in Ankara instead of Yerevan on April 24th, as because the Battle of Gallipoli claimed the lives of 119,000 Britons, and it's Cameron's sacred duty to pay homage to their memories. The British leadership sees more important to be in Turkey for paying tribute to its soldiers died 100 years ago in Gallipoli than listening to a story about a so-called and unproven genocide against Armenians. If Armenia remains low in Cameron's agenda, it's the result of the Armenia's leadership's poor political skills, and subsequently Sarkisian regime should rethink before counting on the Europe's big powers, and also before entering into a genocide war with Turkey with no real facts at hand. Meantime, it would be better to recall the words by Girard Raoult, the French ambassador to the U.S. Holocaust is a fact, but the Armenian genocide is just a historical opinion.
Armenia has lost respect of Russia and the West's trust, and its relations with Iran are just on the paper, an influential Armenian political figure has said. Slamming the Armenian leadership's foreign policy course, Vardan Oskanyan, Armenia's former foreign minister, member of parliament from an opposition Prosperous Armenia party, said the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has never been in a stalemate before like it is now. The only way to get out of the current crisis is a power change. People's patience has already exhausted, Oskanyan said. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan is the result of Armenia's forcible invasion in Azerbaijani territory in the early 1990s. Armenia occupied 20% of Azerbaijan's internationally recognized territory, driving out 1 million Azerbaijanis from their native lands. Oskanyan believes that Armenia has started 2015 with unresolved and deepening problems. On the other hand, last year was unprecedented in terms of uniting the political forces. Last year, a number of political forces in Armenia united to demand a power change. Oskanyan added, "The state governing the country has been on a drift during the last 7 years," said Oskanyan. The Armenian authorities take no effort to change anything in the country since they do not want to harm their own interests, he said. Oskanyan has earlier been reported to inflict a hard blow on the Armenian authorities from abroad, as ArmenianReport.com, a local media outlet, reported that he was preparing to mobilize his supporters in Slovakia's capital, Bratislava. Given the former statesman's criticism of the current authorities, a new front is seemingly being established in the political battlefield in Armenia against incumbent President Serge Sargsyan.
The state-owned fund of Azerbaijan, Sofaz, which is in charge of accumulating and managing the country's oil and gas revenues, announced about the increase in its assets. The fund reported that its assets increased by 3.4% as of January 1st, 2015, compared to $35.8 billion in early 2014 and exceeded $37 billion. Revenue of 20 billion manats was received from the implementation of oil and gas agreements, including 12.3 billion manats from the sale of profit oil and gas, 8.9 million manats as transit payments, 13.3 million manats as bonus payments. Revenues from payments per acre in the first half of 2014 amounted to 1.7 million manats. Revenues from the sale of assets transferred by foreign investors stood at 0.1 million manats. The main goals of SOFAs include accumulation of resources and placement of the fund's assets abroad in order to minimize the negative effects on economy, the prevention of Dutch disease to some extent, promotion of resource accumulation for future generations, and support of current social and economic processes in Azerbaijan.
The project for construction of Trans-Anatolian gas pipeline, which is being implemented by Azerbaijan and Turkey, will contribute to peace in the region, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu said. The TANAP project is a kind of energy-grade Silk Road, he said. Azerbaijan and Turkey succeeded to make the dream of constructing this gas pipeline come true, Davutoğlu said. The preparation of the right-of-way for TANAP was completed in Turkey on February 2nd. A right-of-way is a strip of land over which the pipeline will be laid. The preparation of the right-of-way for this project was to be completed on March 15th. However, as a result of speeding up the relevant works, it was finalized ahead of the schedule. The TANAP project envisages the transportation of the gas of Azerbaijan's Shah Deniz field from the Georgian-Turkish border to the western borders of the Turkey. TANAP's initial capacity is expected to reach 16 billion cubic meters of gas per year. Around 6 billion cubic meters of this gas will be delivered to Turkey and the rest of the volume to Europe. Turkey will obtain gas in 2018. The gas will be supplied to Europe in early 2020 after the Trans-Adriatic pipeline is constructed. The project's cost is estimated at 10 to 11 billion US dollars. Contracts for the supply of pipes for the construction of TANAP were signed in Turkey's Ankara city on October 14th with 6 Turkish and 1 Chinese companies. Turkey's Manasman, Naxal, Erciyes and Umran Emek consortiums and Tosçelik Profil and SAK Industries company, as well as the Chinese contractor Bao Steel Europe, won the tender for the supply of pipes for the TANAP project. All the companies that will participate in the construction and supply of the TANAP project in Turkey are exempt from the VAT.
The Bishops' Conference of the Russian Orthodox Church was held in Moscow under the chairmanship of His Holiness Patriarch Kirill of Moscow and all Russia. The final part of Patriarch Kirill's report was dedicated to mutual relations among Russian Orthodox Church, government agencies and public institutions in canonical territory of the Orthodox Church. The Patriarch said the church-state relations are at a high level in Azerbaijan, noting that constructive cooperation were established between church and state power, and the facts of the transmission of Orthodox churches to Baku diocese prove it. It is remarkable that the Azerbaijani legislation that is against religious extremism significantly complicates the work of the so-called Islamic institutions and other destructive sects. We have friendly relations with the Caucasian Muslims Office. Chairman of Caucasian Muslims Office, Sheikh Islam Alashukur Pashazadeh, hugely contributes to the church, he underlined. Both Orthodox and Catholic churches operate in Azerbaijan. At present moment, Azerbaijan has 5 operating Orthodox churches, with 3 of them located in Baku.
Famous American violinist Hilary Hahn's CD album, in 27 pieces, the Hilary Hahn Encores, featuring chairperson of the Union of Composers of Azerbaijan, people's artist Cengiz Alizadeh's song, has won a Grammy Award in the Best Chamber Music nomination. This is a success of Azerbaijani music. I'm very glad that my song won a Grammy in Hilary Hahn's performance, Cengiz Alizadeh told journalists. Cengiz Alizadeh's nomination for the 2014 Grammy Awards was the first such development in the history of Azerbaijani classical music. Alizadeh said earlier that she had received an order for violin and piano music from Hilary Hahn and further created the composition called Impulse. Alizadeh was impressed by the American violinist, emphasizing her energy and the impulse Hilary Hahn sends to the audience. Alizadeh expressed confidence that Hahn would perform this composition exactly as she described, And indeed, Alizadeh was amazed when she heard it later.